Hello, and welcome to Rock Your Block. I'm your host, Larry Laws. On today's segment of First Home Alliance, we delve into a remarkable life and career of Willie C. Barr, a man whose journey embodies resilience, service, and a commitment to lifelong learning. Barr's remarkable trajectory beginning with his former years in Lake City, South Carolina, where the roots of greatness were planted at Carver High School. At the age of 17, fueled by a profound sense of duty, Barr answered the call of service and joined the United States Navy, launching a distinguished 23-year career that saw him rise to the prestigious rank of Chief Petty Officer. Before his honorable retirement in 1978, leaving behind a legacy of service to his country. Post-military life, Barr embarked on a new chapter with IBM. After compelling field engineer and primary school in Washington, D.C., he became a field certified engineer, specializing in the maintenance and installation of IBM computer systems and communication products. Retiring from IBM in 1994, Barr's story is one of dedication and adaptability. A Navy veteran, IBM engineer, and lifelong learner, his experiences offer a fascinating glimpse into a multifaceted career that spans both military and corporate landscapes. Join us with our Uncover the Sights, Wisdom, and Unique Perspective of Mr. Barr in this illuminating interview. Without further ado, as we embark upon the observance of Black History Month, please welcome to our show, as we officially recognize a true Black American legacy. That's true Black American legend. American Legion District and Post-Past Commander, War Veteran, United States Navy retired, Chief Petty Officer, Comrade, and American Legion Post 114 of Manassas historian, Mr. Willie C. Barr. That's a long resume, Mr. Barr.
Okay, how are you? Welcome.
I'm doing just fine. How are you doing?
Glad to be here, brother.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad to have you here.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I want our audience to get to know you. You know, we want to start back in South Carolina.
Okay.
You know, and so tell us about some of the things that you did back home. What was it like life back home?
Well, I was raised on a small farm, so back in the middle 50s, right after the Korean War, I used to watch the blimps fly over the field. I was back in the back 40s learning how to plow, and I got interested in aviation because I saw those weird-shaped objects in the air, and I was curious who was flying them and how they got up there. So after my uncle got out of the service, he went to New York and he worked for the post office. And when he used to come down on visit, I asked him questions, which branch of service flew those, and he told me he didn't know, but he'd find out. So he got the books for me, because at that time, in school in South Carolina, we couldn't use the library. So if you had outside interest, you couldn't get books to read, because the library was not accessible to us.
Yes, but Mr. Barr, people see you today, and you're a proud gentleman, and they just don't know some of the things that you do. So are you still working out?
Oh, I hit the gym 3 days a week. I do strength training. I work out on about 15 machines, so I try to maintain. I learned that in the military. You got to constantly move to stay in shape, because my time in the service, I was Chief Petty Officer, repairing the aircraft. I was a flight crew member, so you had to be aware and alert at all times. So I try to maintain that kind of objectivity, even in this life coming up on 86.
Oh, 86. Well, yeah. That sounds good. And so I see you out there, you're marching in the parade. And also, I think after parade, you and I had a talk there, and you actually said, well, I got to go home and take care of my car.
Right.
Tell us about the car.
Well, my hobbies when I was in the military, I always liked the old cars. I come from the old school. So I had a Corvette, but when I had problem with my knee, I had a knee replacement. I had to get rid of it because I couldn't get into it. So I bought a 2003 Thunderbird. So that's my hobby. That's what keeps me busy now. Plus, I do a lot of research, reading black history and stuff like that, and finding out what's still going on in the world. Because those of us that are blessed to still be here, you can't change what's here, but you can keep up with what's here. But
Yes.
you have to know from whence you came before you can continue forward, you know.
Yes, and talking about from whence you came. Now, I understand you did some farming, and so did you have the green thumb? Is that why you didn't go in that area?
Well, I still like to work in the garden. I have two acres, so I work in the yard in the summer, plant flowers. So I keep connected to that growth thing, but I found out early in life I was not going back to that.
Yes.
You know?
And so I guess you tested really well. Not only you joined the Navy, but you went into aviation.
Right.
And so and you said about that blimp. I love when you're talking about you out there in the farm, out there in the fields, and you see the blimp fly over. You said that's what I wanted to do. And so how was entering the Navy in that field?
Well, the thing is, I didn't know all the particulars, but I was interested in blimps, so that's what I asked for. So when we went to classification, I had all the scores for that, but everybody in my company that asked for blimps ended up in fixed wing. So I thanked them later on, because I found out later that those things, you really had to stay in shape. You know?
Yes.
Because when they landed, you had to moor them to a mast.
Okay.
And the guys that did the mooring, you had to climb up and down that slick mast, and that wasn't my cup of tea.
It was better to land on a strip and walk on the tailgate, walk up in there. Yes. Yes. Well, tell me a little about one of your unique experiences in the Navy.
Well, the most unique one was the fact when I got the opportunity to be a race relation facilitator. In the Navy back in the 69, 70, the Navy came out with a directive. Admiral Zumwalt decided that things were totally wrong in the Navy and everything had to be changed. Right. So I got a chance to be a facilitator, go through all of the training, how to do that, and then research on the history. So it really opened up my background of the contribution that we made to America that was not being taught in the history books, and they were hidden in the archives,
Yes, and also during your Navy career, you was the first to do some things, and I know you led the way, groundbreaking. Right. And I think you have mentioned about one of the positions, I think after becoming chief, where there was some resistance maybe, or hesitation because
there were resistance throughout the Navy. They had to relieve commanding officers of their command because some of them did not want the race relation information put out on the ships, but the Navy had a directive, and Admiral Zumwalt was the type to make sure that they enforced that. So,
yes. And how about the subordinates to you as when you became a senior?
I never really had any strong resistance. You had a couple of individuals would give you looks, but again, you got to remember in the military, we have directives and regulation. So position of rank, they're not going to challenge you. They might mentally and stare you down, but you can't let that's their problem. You can't let that stop you from doing the job you volunteered to do.
Yes. And so after a prestigious military career, and you decided to retire. And so how was it getting out of the military to transition out to into civilian?
Well, for me, I didn't have any problem because being that I was an instructor and all this stuff, and I knew how to plan. So a year before I was due to retire, I was looking at what I wanted to do. And I looked at all different careers, and computers was a new thing, and IBM happened to be in the area. So that was one of the things on my list, and lucked out I joined the local Lions Club. I also am a member of the Lions Club International. And the president of the club was an IBM employee, and so a year later, after I joined, I became the vice president, and he and I became good friends. And when I told him I was retiring, he said, well, give me your resume. And I wrote my resume and went up for the interview. And 20 years later, I retired.
You retired, another retirement.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, some of the what was some of the new IBM equipment that you work with?
Oh, I started out with the key punch and the small system communication stuff. Then the newest thing came on the market was the supermarket systems, the Series 1, 4361, and the 360s were the mainframe. I worked on the older model of those, models 60 and 15, you know.
Okay.
And then they came out with a 3090. Well, by that time, I transferred out of engineering I went to Federal Systems, where they made computers and components for the Navy, you know, anti-submarines and stuff, aircraft. So I got into networking, so that's where I retired from there. And when I left the Navy, I actually worked 10 years with Verizon.
Really?
I was on the team that developed the cell phone out here in Maryville. I was a test engineer.
Yeah, I see you so well been able to use that technology out there,
Yeah.
you know, so it's a lot.
Well, the education gain
yes.
and the motivation, because you got to continue to develop yourself to maintain what the Creator intended for us to do on
Yes.
this earth. So
Yes.
I'm still traveling.
Yes, yes, and you're still pretty advanced for some of us guys that's over 35 in reference to the computer and telephone. Yes, and so we're going to talk a little bit more about what you're doing here in the community and a little bit about your legacy.
Well, I belonged to the Lions Club. When I joined the American Legion, my thing is Commander, well, it was Colonel Roundtree was the commander of Post 114. And there was 2 or 3 retired Army officers. We were friends, and we developed when we moved into Dale City in '74, and I joined the American Legion. So my motivation was to be a commander of the American Legion, and then I learned more about what they contribute.
So let's hold that. Let's come back to that right after a break, and then we're going to talk about the American Legion.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
Good segue.
Okay.
All right. We're about to take a short break, but before we go, I would like to remind you that First Home Alliance is a HUD-approved housing counseling agency serving the National Capital Area. If you are a first-time home buyer or a homeowner in need of mortgage assistance, please visit the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development website to find a HUD-approved agency in your area. We'll be right back after the break. Stay tuned.
With First Home Alliance, a little bit about First Home Alliance. We are a HUD-approved housing counseling agency that was established in 2002 by our executive director, Larry Law. He established the nonprofit. He established it because his mother purchased her first home at the age of 65. And everyone was like, how did you do that? Because her income was really low. And so that's how he found out about the USDA program. And so through the USDA program, his mother was able to purchase her first home. It intrigued him to see how he could help individuals basically experience the American dream of home ownership. So he established the nonprofit. Mission is to increase home ownership to low to moderate income families. And so what does First Home Alliance do?
Welcome back. You're watching Rock Your Block. I'm your host, Larry Laws of First Home Alliance. And if you're just now tuning in, we're joined today with Vietnam War veteran, U.S. Navy retired, and American Legion post historian of Post 114, historian Willie Bar. Mr. Barr, yes, and so you began to talk about American Legion Post 114. And so when did you join?
I think sometime in the 80s, 81, 82, you know, and then I had a 1-year break, and then I came back, you know.
How did you find out about the post?
Well, when I met Colonel Roundtree, he was a post commander. We belonged to a local community fellowship club, and we had all retired military guys in Dale City, and that's how I found out about it, you know.
Yes. And so some of the things that the American Legion do, what are some of the things that you do with the American Legion?
Well, the American Legion have all kind of community activities for young people. They're involved with helping veterans that get out. A lot of us, lose our direction, and we need a little back online course to be motivated to do the right thing. So we're there to pick that up when some of them fail,
Yes. Okay. And do you are you involved in some of the poppy campaigns and
poppy campaigns? And we go out. When I was district commander, we have the oratoricals. We put on oratoricals for high school students to hone their speach and their abilities, and the scholarships and everything. There's all kind of helpful things out there for young people that are interested in military history, and some of them are interested in joining the military because of their involvement or exposure to the American Legion.
Yes. And so you served as post commander, post 114.
Right.
Tell me about as post commander and some of the other positions that you held.
Well, I was first commander. I've served in all of the post officers position except the adjutant. That's the only one I haven't been motivated yet to step into.
I think we got elections coming up.
Yeah.
Put your name in the hat. Well, I don't know if we can find another historian as qualified as you are, as post historian. And so with that, and also you served on a district.
Right.
And so you're district commander, and you're actually serving on district at this sergeant arms. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah. I'm still active. Still active. You got to keep it moving, brother.
Yes, yes. And so what I would like for you to do is to tell us a little bit about the history. And before you start on the history, did you actually ever, did you meet Paul Mitchell?
No, I didn't know him, but I met one of the commanders, one of the comrades that was in the post during his time that actually sold the land to us adjacent to the post now, so the reason we can expand things.
Okay.
Before he passed,
All right. And so I would like for you to share with us a little bit, from the origination, when the post was established, and just talk a little bit about the history.
Well, from historical point of view, I guess there was 15 brave returning soldiers from World War I and World War II. Back in that time, black soldiers didn't have a place to meet to talk about their experience during the war, and so they petitioned. President Roosevelt was the one that signed the order. They petitioned to have a place to meet. So we have recognition for their historical movement each year to recognize them, because if they did not do that approximately 1945, right, that post wouldn't exist, and we're trying to carry that legacy on. That's one of my motivations for staying in the American Legion and contributing what I can contribute.
That is great. And so with some of those things that we do, not only that bringing new people in, recruiting, but also we show respects and go to the, we call post everlasting.
Right. Yeah, well, each year we have the post everlasting where you recognize all of the service members that passed that contribute to the greatness of America and also to the American Legion Post 114. Again, like I say, going back to the historical event, that's why we have to keep that post going, because those guys deserve continuous recognition for their contribution.
Yes, and keeping this legacy of the post and keeping it active and alive and vibrant. Different posts have different a way of sustaining itself. Mm-hmm. And so talk a little bit about what you know about the housing and the redevelopment that we're going on.
Well, you as the leader, as the post commander now, we have a rigid process going on, hopefully starting here, well, shortly we'll start building post homes, homes for veterans, and a new post home on the site of the original post.
Yes, and how did that make you feel? I know we haven't broke ground yet, but no. you see the diagram from.
Well, yeah, my image of it, the heart is bursting. I'm just waiting for the moment when the balloon is filled and we can pop it.
That sounds good. Yes. Well, you know, I'm glad, I'm proud to be a part of it. And I will be glad to see groundbreaking in the veteran homes as well.
Right.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And so with that, you know, you have such a legacy, you know, here, but you also have a good support. And so you've been married for a number of years.
Oh, yeah. I'm coming up December the 5th of this year. It'll be 65 years of marriage. I have 3 kids, you know, 5 grandkids and 2 great-grands. So I'm a proud grandpapa.
Well, that sounds good.
Yeah.
That sounds good. And
Yeah.
they're proud of you as well.
Right, right.
And so we are. And so what are some of the things with the church? What do you do in the church?
Well, in the church, I'm a Sunday school member. I haven't taken on the burden of being a teacher, but I'm working toward that because I'm really motivated in learning more about the history of the Bible and the contribution that the Creator laid out for us the way we should live our life. So that's my motivation each day, you know.
Okay. And I understand that you are a lifelong learner.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I carry a book all the time. I'm always reading because, again, knowledge is a thing that moves us forward.
Yes. And so what are some of the other things that you're interested in learning more about?
Well, the thing is, for me, science is the thing that intrigues me. I'm constantly reading. I spent time in the Antarctic. I spent 4 summer seasons flying the C-130s around as a crew member down there and flying the scientists and the technicians around doing their research. And during that time, I met a lot of distinguished Americans. Admiral Gravy, I was on the crew that flew him around. The famous conservative guy from Arizona, Goldwater, and his son. His son was a senator. They were members of that group that we flew around one of the summers I was there. The first flight there was Wind Fly of 1970, and my last tour there was 74. And 74, I came back to Virginia, and 78, I retired from the Navy. Yeah.
Oh, great. And I remember a few of the stories that you mentioned about being on the aircraft. Well, one, I remember that the guys talked to you about parachuting out.
Yeah.
You know, I was a parachutist, and so what would you tell those parachutists?
Well, my thing is, I always told all the members that, when we were making the emergency landing and everything, I said, okay, fellas, if we don't make it this time and we have to meet the Creator, just remember the guy that's going to give you permission to go through the gate looked like me. They used to look at me and say, Chief, you're crazy. Yeah. But, it was honest feeling.
Yeah, yes. But that C-130 is a workhorse, and so yes, I made a few leaps out of that C-130. So we appreciate your service and ensure that we got over the right drop zone.
Right.
Most of the time.
Thank you for the interview, brother.
Well, thank you for coming on, and really it's a pleasure.
Okay.
To have you here.
Okay.
And want to continue to serve.
Okay.
All right. I hope you enjoyed this inspiring interview with the American Legion Post historian and Black American history legend, Mr. Willie C. Barr. It has been an honor and an absolute pleasure to recognize Mr. Barr's accomplishments, acknowledge legacy, and continuous involvement within our community. You can get more information on Paul W. Mitchell Jr. American Legion Post 114 on its website and Facebook page. Now it's time to check out our inbox and see how we can help rock your block. This is where we share a recent question sent to us from you, our viewing audience, about financial stability and housing. Today's question comes from Joint Base Andrews. Is my BAH taxable, and can I use it to purchase a home? The answer to the first part of the question is no. As of my last knowledge, the BAH, which is the basic allowance for housing, is considered non-taxable income. It is not subject to federal income tax or Social Security tax. However, it's always advisable to consult with a tax professional or appropriate tax attorney or authority for your most recent accurate information on tax laws because they can change and individual circumstances may vary. And yes, you may use your BAH to purchase a house. First Home Alliance can assist in providing you with additional information on your benefits and home purchase options on the VA Home Loan Guarantee Program. I'm Larry Laws of First Home Alliance, and it's been my pleasure sharing with you our mission and highlighting people in our community that are making an impact. If you have questions about financial fitness or how we can help make your dream of homeownership a success, email your question to our inbox at help@firsthomealliance.org. Then tune in to our next show to see if your question was selected to be shared with our audience. You can easily get more information about our services by visiting our website at firsthomealliance.org. And please follow us on Facebook. Thank you for watching today's segment of First Home Alliance, and join us next time to rock your block.
Glad to know that, some of this stuff about credit and buying houses is written down somewhere. A lot of the times it's always hearsay, like other friends or family members who have bought houses before, but they can never, tell you legit what you need to get done and do before buying a house.
I definitely think this class should be required for all first home buyers because a lot of times the real estate agent doesn't explain the process to you. So I think this is very important.
It's from the credit up to receiving a loan, and the most important thing is the process that you go through when you're buying the house, and there are a lot of process which you don't have idea about that before you take this class.
Speakers who came up and spoke about each section, they were very knowledgeable in their field, and I felt like it was relatable. They didn't just throw out a whole bunch of terms that went over my head, but they really explained it in a way to where I understood it, and I could even explain it to my children, and it was even easier for me to take home and kind of remember and process and apply to my next steps. The process was amazing.
They start first with the class before even finding a lender or agent. So I did all that and I wasn't able to purchase, and then I was like, oh, you know what, there's a lot of information I'm not aware of. Let me just start from the beginning to put everything on hold.
Piecing the information together, because you've heard things about the loans and about this and about the credit, but this is like a summary, and it just gives a clear flow of where to go with what you have and kind of building up a plan. So that kind of gives me a whole picture of where I needed to go and how to get there.